this episode, we are filming this in October. So we're doing one of two that are sort of Halloween themed. And surprisingly, it's our top 3 Halloween movies. So, Sarah, you want to start us off? What's your number 3?
Sure. So number 3, and I wasn't sure where I was going to put this on the list, but I knew I had to put this on the list. So Nosferatu. I mean, obviously, it's a big creepy vampire, one of the first scary movies ever made. It's like the first horror movie ever made, isn't it?
It's up there, yeah. I would think so.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. It's freaking Nosferatu. All the vampire.
I always felt like Salem's Lot, they tried to draw, the vampire was definitely, they were trying to draw from Nosferatu on that. The first, I saw it as a kid.
Miniseries.
Yeah, the miniseries.
The original miniseries, yeah, that was a total rip-off of Nosferatu.
And I remember it freaking me out. I was a kid, and I saw it at first, and then when I saw, I'm like, oh, that's where they got that from. Kind of like C-3PO, and then I saw what's the silent film?
Metropolis.
Yeah, Metropolis. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
But that's how it was with
familiar.
Nosferatu I saw, yeah. So I mean, and if they have it restored, and I watched it, I don't know, probably about a year ago. It's one of those things that definitely has a timeless quality and really affected a lot of stuff afterwards. So
yeah, I do want to say about my list, I'm not ranking these in order of like the best movie to the least, the not as great movie. So this is like my number 1 isn't the best movie in the whole wide world. It's the movie I most associate with Halloween. So let me go ahead and say that right now before we get there.
That's how I am too. And I bet Chip would say. Chip, what was your?
I would say my number 3 would be Fright Night, because
that's a good one.
Funny, when I lived, I never really I remember we always watched horror films around Halloween and all of that, the month of Halloween. But when I lived in England, they don't really trick or treat as much, but they make a big deal out of Halloween, and they had all these movies on, and they would do all of these like little film festivals at the college. And I remember there were these ones, it's weird because like here we always watch that movie with Jimmy Stewart at Christmas. What is it? It's a Wonderful Life. Right. And then now, like we were just talking about, and now more in the modern day, it's A Christmas Story, right? Is what everybody, right. And England, for Christmas, they watch The Wizard of Oz. It's like, it's just, because
I associate that with Thanksgiving because we play it. We used to get played.
Oh, really?
I never really thought about it as having a holiday theme, but it's on TV on Christmas Day in England is The Wizard of Oz. And they have certain movies, like all the people that I went to school with, they had certain movies that were very Halloween oriented to them. And I remember Fright Night, which I always liked. And I actually liked Fright Night too. I thought they were both pretty good for what they were. That was one of the big ones that they all watched. And I've always liked that movie. So I've always associated it with Halloween since then. So
nice.
Very nice.
The remake is horrific, by the way. And it's got all these great actors in it. David Tennant's in it. Colin Farrell's in it, and it still is just.
I like Colin Farrell.
Oh wow!
I love David Tennant, but I
think the guy who played Chekhov, who died.
Oh, really? Isn't it?
I think he's the main character.
Really?
Yeah, I
didn't know they remade that. I've never.
Yeah, I went and saw it because I was kind of going, "Ooh, this should be good." I love this movie as a kid, and I was like, "Oh, this is terrible."
That's funny. When did that come out?
2011.
Really?
Yeah, Anton Yelchin.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell, David Tennant. Yeah.
Very nice.
So,
my number 3 is Beetlejuice.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because
I almost put that one on my list.
Here's really why. I mean, these aren't my 3 favorite horror movies that I picked. They're the 3 movies that I associate with Halloween. And for me, as a kid, maybe there was some stuff that I would watch growing up, but for the most part, even then, it was about trick or treating. because and so that's what I associate with Halloween. But if we did go, and if you went to and then after that it became go to a party, and then if you're at a party, they normally weren't going to play a slasher film because people aren't going to sit there and watch it every now and then. But people will watch that and come in and out of it because everybody's seen it, or a lot of people have seen it so many times. And so yes, you can leave that on at a party, and if whatever age is walking through, it's not too bad. So that's really kind of why I chose that as my number 3.
It's good. It's funny. Yeah, it's horror oriented. It's great.
It's kind of classic. So, Sarah, what's your number 2?
So my number 2 is The Addams Family.
Those are
one or
No, not. I wouldn't say. Well, here I'll put the one. Oh, I just lost
Family
it.
Values is the second one.
This is the second one.
Yeah. So I have The Addams Family, the one with Christina Ricci and Angelica Houston, Paul Julia. That one.
Yeah, those are great. They're so good. We watch those here all the time, and we watch the Addams Family animated movie as well. And I tried to get them to watch the original TV show, but they were like, black and white, we're out. They're not watching that stuff.
I guess
But
that's the 1992's version.
Love the Addams Family. Such a great movie. Both of them.
It is.
Yeah, they're both really good. They're both.
They've come out with a cartoon.
Yeah,
A cartoon version of it. I haven't seen that yet.
that's pretty good. It's pretty funny. It's the voice actors are great, and they just came out with a part 2. It's on at the movies right now.
There's a commercial out, and I don't remember what it's selling, but there's a commercial that has them in it.
Oh, fun. Yeah, it's insurance.
Yes, it's
Progressive insurance.
that's what
The
it is.
last time it was IHOP. IHOP had a line
Well, of
of
course. What don't you associate?
Halloween oriented pancakes connected to the movie.
Well,
That's how Alan got his daughter to go see the movie.
Oh, nice.
pancakes.
Because Alan's
Pancakes.
daughter will my kids are like, I'm like, hey, this is cool. You guys should check it out. And they'll check it out. For some reason, Alan's daughter, if he goes, you should watch this, she's like, I'm absolutely not going to watch that. I don't know what he's done. But yeah, so he has to trick her into stuff. Yeah, she probably did get it from her mom. It's a good point.
That's hilarious. No, those are good. But no, those are great films. I have when I used to go, both of my sisters used to live in Manhattan, and they would, and for about 10 years each, and they overlapped. So I would go to Manhattan all the time. I mean, I go to New York all the time, and they lived different places at the same time. Anyway, I was in Soho, and this girl, real short, I should say girl, this woman real short next to me. And I just looked over and it's Christina Ricci. And I just looked back up and I'm like, just so weirdly, nobody said anything.
Yeah.
And it was when she was kind of at the height of, there was a movie where she played like a seductress or something that was kind of a hit.
Black Snake Moan.
No, it's before that. I think that may have been her.
Was that on the downside? Oh yeah. I know what it was like. It was like a Lolita type movie or something.
And it was right after that one. It was a little bit after the same kind of film with Michelle Buffy.
Sarah Michelle Gellar, Cruel Intentions.
Yeah. So it was after. It was kind of a long anyway. But it was just so weird. And then I remember telling my sister, I was like, cool. That was, it was like one of the first sightings I ever saw of a famous person. But my sister's like, I see her all the time. I never. Anyway. All right. So where are we? My stupid story set me off. Is it Chip?
Did you say yours? Yeah.
Yeah, my number 2.
Yeah.
Would be because I remember my uncle made me watch it on Halloween when I was a little kid, and it was great, but it scared me to death. Phantasm.
Oh wow!
I don't think I've ever seen that.
I've always associated that movie with with Halloween. And that movie's got a real interesting history. Like it's really was like an indie film, and it was this one guy's idea, and he like basically indie financed it, starred in it, did all kind. I mean, it was it's a really weird concept. It's like a sci-fi horror movie because this guy's taking and reanimating dead people and crushing them down so they can go work on this slave labor on this planet that has like super strong gravity. So everybody's got to be crushed down.
Oh gosh.
And he got that idea of crushing it down from Something Wicked This Way Comes, because there's the guy that they crush down into the midget.
Interesting.
Anyway, that's all. I've always associated that with Halloween, and it's still. I mean, like I watched it maybe a couple years ago, and it's still. I mean, it's a good story. The acting's a little rough, but it's good.
I had
Halloweeny.
Sarah, you said you'd never seen it. I had never seen it until, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 years ago. I finally got to see it. I always wanted to see it as a kid because I remember like there was a commercial for it, and there's this ball, and it comes up, drills this guy in the head, and I got to see that movie. And my parents
out the back of it.
Yeah, I'm like, hell, I'm not seeing that because they weren't going to go, and they were going to take me, and I wasn't going by myself. So I think that movie kind of stands up. I have
There's been a bunch of sequels to it, like he's story, and the bad guy is the tall man. That's all he's known as.
Yeah,
Everybody else is squished.
That's right, exactly.
Well,
I kind of have
doesn't take much.
I like those 70s movies, and they have sort of an existential. A lot of them have these weird existential endings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that one still stands up. You could watch it today, and if you take a couple steps back from it and just sort of appreciate it for what it is, I think it's still kind of holds.
And then also, I mean, you can definitely relate with this, Scotty. When we were kids, like you didn't have access to everything all the time. So like the only thing you ever saw of Phantasm would see would be in a documentary or a show about horror movies or sci-fi movies, and you would see the tall man and you would see the ball with and that would be it. And you'd be like, what is this? I haven't. And then, when these things would build up in my mind, at least as a kid. And then when I'd finally get to see the movie, I'd be like, okay, I can't wait to see this because it's all been drummed up for so long. And I remember I'd seen that a bunch of times. And my uncle's not that much older than me. He's my dad's youngest brother. And he was like, hey, let's watch this for Halloween. It's Halloween. It's coming on this, it's like on HBO back when HBO didn't even run 24 hours a day except on the weekends.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a while ago.
That's how I feel about The Phantom, or I think that's what it's called. It's a famous director. It's an early movie of his where it's kind of like Phantom of the Opera, but it's a rock one.
Oh, yeah.
It's what's the director? The guy who directed Sisters and dadgummit. It's a famous director, and it's pretty early. But I had that built up, and then I watched it, and I was kind of like, yeah, it's kind of dated. But yeah, that was
it was like a rock and roll Phantom, and it had
who's the director?
What was the guy in it?
Something. It's like the Phantom. It's the Phantom something. It's not.
But it's not the Kiss movie, is it?
No, it's not Kiss Meets the Phantom. But anyway,
that's a great movie. Fantastic.
Well, they were such good actors. Anyway, all right. So I guess it's my number 2.
Yep.
My number 2 is my only, it's the only real horror one. I just did air quotes so you couldn't see. But Halloween, the first one.
The original.
The original one, not the second, which was an abomination. I mean, it was Highlander 2 bad. The second, or their brother and sister. Come on. I mean, whatever. But that first one is so good and so well. It still stands up. The acting in it's great. The music's fantastic. The John Carpenter, I mean, the shots so well shot. I mean, that way that movie, the art, part of the art of that movie is how well it's shot. It's just so. That's why it's scary, because it's that thing of, if I'm over here and the camera tells the story, if I'm over here, you're expecting something here.
Mhm.
And so he used that kind of stuff with wide camera lens. He was one of the first to do one of the handheld cameras, but you would see, and that mask, because it would come out of the dark, so you just see the mask. I mean, it was so well done. And I'm a big John Carpenter fan, and I think that
I watched
great.
I watched a documentary on it, and they talked about how they didn't have a lot of blood by choice. Like, there wasn't a lot of like gushing blood when people got stabbed. There wasn't a lot of gore. There weren't like body parts, that kind of stuff. And they made all those artistic choices, and they had like no budget. So they literally couldn't afford the amount of blood that would probably go pumping out of a person.
Well, yeah. Also, that was before that was one of the original slasher films. Like, there wasn't a lot of, they were the innovator, or the one starting it. And that was just, and he wrote the music. Yeah. John Carpenter wrote most of the music for most of his films.
Yeah, some of his movies, I think the choices are better than others. It's definitely Hitchcock inspired. To your point, Sarah, it lets your brain feel it. Jaws is like that. Even the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that you see, like when he goes to put her on the hook, you just see him lift her up and go up. You don't actually ever see the hook go in. And I mean, even when it cuts the guy's leg when it falls, it kind of, it's a little bit, but it's definitely not the Toxic Avenger when it comes.
That's great. I just heard recently, and I don't know what I was watching, but they were talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he was using actual cadavers and stuff like that, and a bunch of the actors were like super method actors and didn't bathe, and it smelled so horrible on the set that the actors would do their scene and then have to run outside to breathe fresh air and usually throw up.
Well, it was 100 and whatever. It's in Texas.
Yeah, and it was like, that was the other thing. It was Texas. Like insanely hot, and those were like real dead animals, and people were like, "This was the worst." I don't like that movie. I've never been a fan of that. I've always just thought that was too much.
Scary for sure.
Whereas Halloween was perfect because it didn't do those things. I really liked Halloween, and I even liked Rob Zombie's remake of Halloween. But what was that? Oh, it's a dog.
It's my dog.
It's fine. So is it my turn? Where are we at?
I think we've all said our twos, right? I think.
Well, then Sarah's number one. Yeah.
But,
so my number one isn't very scary at all. It's also a musical.
I know what it is.
You're gonna guess? Go ahead, guess.
Nightmare Before Christmas?
No, Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, great! Yes.
I watch it endlessly every Halloween. I just have it on. It's just so much fun. It's got great music in it. It's got an amazing cast. Steve Martin, Rick Moranis, Jim Belushi's in it, John Candy's in it, Christopher Guest, Bill Murray's in it.
It's a new of improv guys.
Yeah, it's amazing. Mildred Shea's in it.
The guy who wrote that originally rewrote the movie as an off-Broadway musical play. And then he made that movie, and the actress, Rick Moranis' girlfriend in the movie, is from the original play.
Ellen Green.
And one of the guys went on to write most of the music and had a lot to do with Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like that was his kind of intro into and that's part of the new renaissance of Disney. So
very nice.
I love it.
Feed me, Seymour. That's what I'm
Feed me, Seymour.
Moranis fan. In fact, I think that's why I originally watched that, because he was in it. With Doug and Bob McKenzie.
Strange Brew.
Yeah, Strange Brew. But I mean, I think that's why I originally watched that movie, was because I knew Rick Moranis was in it. All right, Chip, you got what's your number one? My
number one is just my favorite horror movie, period. is Night of the Living Dead. It's written and directed by Dan O'Bannon, who wrote Alien, and he was also John Carpenter. Him and John Carpenter worked together on Dark Star, and he went on to do a lot of. He's written a lot of other things. He worked with Jodorowsky on the Dune that ended up not happening. But I just think that it's a great campy, funny horror movie. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the end all be all zombie movie. So I don't know why they kept doing zombies after that, but
you're like, that's it. That's the
it's
zombie
always-
quota.
yeah.
Everything we've talked about has been lower budget, but has been because all that stuff was not done by the major studios.
Right.
So it was done on a shoestring budget, a lot of them. But that's also why they're so they had artistic freedom, but that's also why they've been so influential. Is because people actually had a vision and did something and didn't have
Was it made by committee?
Yeah, but you also had to fill in the gaps with your imagination. So you'd have to imagine as they're, going into somebody what's happening to them, and as opposed to every little squirt and piece of meat.
Everything being
You
shown.
can see everything. Yeah.
Yeah, almost overkill. They've done the exact opposite in a lot of ways. No, that's a great movie. My number one, definitely not scary, and it's going to show how old I am. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. What's the actual?
Ah!
Yeah, the Charlie Brown, the TV special.
It is. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I mean,
It's a great, yeah.
because I almost picked Sleepy Hollow. That kind of came in a little late, and I think that film's more pretty. It's more striking.
Oh yeah, it's Christina Ricci's in that movie too.
It's a little. I think it's kind of it's almost a boring movie, but it's so well shot that I almost picked that one and put it on the list, but I didn't. But this is that thing that I remember watching. Back to the point, I would watch that and then go out and trick or treat, or vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those Charlie Brown shows like defined the holiday to us. I mean, like if you didn't see those shows, like if you didn't see It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, was it really Halloween? The Thanksgiving one was a little mediocre, but if you didn't see the Christmas one, I mean, how was it even Christmas if you didn't see the Charlie Brown Christmas special
on his house fighting the Red Baron? I mean, and everything. Yeah. That's how you know.
Yeah, to me, and it's still the one that's through. Thinking back to me, it was the one that was definitely my favorite. I mean, I still remember that kind of stuff. So
I make my kids watch them, but Apple caught a bit of hell for those because they bought them and they were not going. You were only going to be able to see them on Apple TV. TV Plus, you had to subscribe to see them, or you had to buy them from Apple, and then they bought it. I mean, they bought it, they paid for it, but then they caught so much flack for it that they allow PBS to show them like once or twice a season or something like that. So
very interesting. Were there other ones that you guys had that were on the sort of the perimeter that you can think of?
Like for me, it'd be like Night of the Comet. Does anybody remember that movie?
That sounds familiar.
So there's a comet that comes, and all the people watch the comet, and they totally get they just turn into powder because they get instantly dehydrated. And then the few people that are alive, but people that were like partially exposed but not completely exposed become kind of like zombies. Yeah. And there's only like a few people left, and it's a couple teens, and it's these two sisters, and I can't remember the whole story. I just remember watching that around Halloween and it being fun. I just remember like 80s movies in general were a lot of fun. 90s movies were like all bummers and and then like today movies are just
to the 80s movies being
I guess they were all like a bummer and scary, and then now horror movies are just so freaking scary. I can't even watch them or beyond gross to where I have no interest in watching them.
Yeah. They're like those, what are those movies where they actually killed people? What was that called?
Snuff film.
Snuff films. It's like actual snuff films. Like you can't
It's
tell
almost
sometimes.
there. Yeah, it's like like those
Yeah.
like I was talking the other day, like Saw 1 I saw and I was like, ooh, that's an interesting concept. This is a decent movie. So what should we do? We've made a good movie. Well, let's make 7 more and then let's make each one more gross. Doesn't that sound great? I mean, that's what I want to pay money for.
Yeah. I'm surprised nobody said Army of Darkness. I was thinking about that.
And Evil Dead. Oh, those are all great movies.
If we had talked about horror, that I would have, because that's one of my favorite horror. But I don't. Not that it's bigger, but I guess I think of that more. Like I said, that's one of my favorite. I like Bruce Campbell. I mean,
it's very campy, and they did another like a series of it.
Yeah,
Ash versus the Evil Dead or whatever.
Yeah, I loved it. I watched all of it. I can hold her any which way.
That's pretty funny. That is very funny. She was probably handled from a young.
Oh, I just hit her against the. Are you okay?